Some viewers may find this content disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Once again, Harley Owens has arrived in the Fox Den. This means it is once again midnight lycanthropy time here on StarFox Radio. Harley and I are going to figure out what is going on with the madness known as the Dogman. Now that is taken care of, and I feel my shackles being released, I am fully revamped, recharged, and ready to battle the Dogman. It is time for Harley and I to walk into the darkness. My creatures of the night, yes, welcome back to another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. We, once again, have Harley Owens, who has stopped in and will continuously be stopping in, as previously stated. Harley, my dude, how you doing, man?
It's good to be back in the Fox Den. I'm hoping everybody is doing well, and we're looking forward to talking some Dogman here. Here in East Tennessee, and quite frankly across the state, to be honest. But it's good to catch up and collaborate. And I consider you a big brother, and I wouldn't consider it any other way.
First off, man, that's very kind words, and I feel the same about you, which is why I've always, like I said, tried to help you out as much as possible inside and outside of this, and I appreciate you definitely helping me out and staying loyal during my rebrand here, which it's nothing major as people sometimes think with a rebrand. I just had to, change a few things that I lost a couple of rights to, but hey, it's all set, everything new, coming in and out soon, so Harley, what about you? What have you been doing down in your way? Any new research popping up?
Yeah. Aside from this past Saturday, we went out to Nantahala National Forest in Franklin, North Carolina. Yeah, it was a wild day. Seen a bunch of structures done by the Sasquatch. Seen had rocks thrown. Actually, we found a big handprint. Got a 3D scan of that. I 3D scanned a couple of tracks. It was a very, very interesting day. I'm pretty sure George seen a juvenile Sasquatch, probably about 3.5, 4 foot tall. And I actually got this one on video. It's leaning out from around a tree, and I go back probably about 10, 15 minutes later to where it was leaning out from around the tree and it was gone. So, I mean, that was incredible to get that on video. But aside from the Sasquatch, I got to get on the Dogman stuff. But, I found that three-toed track, not this past Friday, but the Friday before. It's really got me puzzled because it's a three-toe track and it's got a pad, but is it a Dogman? I want to say yes, but I want to say no at the same time.
Wow, just staying busy right there. That's excellent. It's always good to hear you're out there and trying to find out what the heck is occurring. And yes, that's a very strange track right there for sure. And I do love how I can actually put that up in the video because, hey, guess whose image that is? Yours. So, yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
able to make sure to have that up there. And still haven't really had a chance to. Nuxium's reached out to me a few times just to try to catch up with me. But like I said to you, man, you know what I'm going through trying to just churn stuff out right now. I literally have just been staying up till 4 or 5 in the morning just trying to get all this stuff reset up and ready to cruise on forward. So as soon as I do get a chance to sit down and speak with him, I'll definitely let you know what he does have to say about that topic for sure and what he thinks about could be occurring in that area because he is intrigued. It comes to some of your more favorite or I don't even know if I should say favorite or infamous or nightmare fuel type encounters from your neck of the woods. What do you really feel terrifies you?
Definitely, I would say the Dogman, but this track and what other people are saying to me is this is pretty much nightmare fuel. Not a werewolf type creature, but something along the lines of a reptilian creature, so to speak. That's pretty terrifying to think about.
Yeah, that is definitely some nightmare fuel to think that potentially some sort of reptilian hominoid is cranking around. We do have some interesting tracks on file that potentially have those three-toed aspects, but like Nuxium was saying, depending on whether it's sand or snow, the tracking could actually be not really three toes. It could have melted like that, but in grass or an area that you have,
Yeah,
there's really no.
On a mossy rock, yeah.
Yes, you have zero pretty much range of expanding or contrasting, etc. So yeah, that is really interesting because I would say the majority of the type of tracks that we feel are Dogman like, if you look at, I mean, I'm 6'1". You said you're like what, almost 6'6". So look at your foot, and pretty much it looks like that, but it does have some sort of padding on it and claws. Because if something was to be able to stand upright consistently, the tracks would have to look more like our feet if you're meant to stand upright. Because I mean, look at a bear's back feet. Yeah, they're pretty wide, but they're not really necessarily long, and they're not designed for that animal to consistently be upright.
Absolutely, 100%. And for a bear, for a perfect example, they're not made to stand bipedally for long periods of time. And that's where a lot of the misidentification when people say that, that's one thing that really aggravates me. Somebody that's had a Bigfoot encounter or encounter with these dogmen, they said this thing was bipedally and it moved away. A bear can't do that for long periods of time.
100%, and that's very well put and thought out. And I believe I've heard you say, I think you've said it before, that you're a hunter, correct?
Yeah, yep, I am. I've been doing it since I've been growing up most of my life, and then after my first Bigfoot experience in 2020, I stopped. And this past Thanksgiving 2023, I went back and I killed my first deer in over 3 years. So that was a eye-opening experience for me.
Yeah, geez, I can only imagine with that right there. So the reason I asked that is, you must feel pretty confident while you're out in the forest as to what it is that you're able to see in front of you then, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely 100%. If it walks like a duck, it talks like a duck, it's a duck.
Yes, no, very much so. I would agree with that. The reason I ask that is I do feel individuals such as yourself and people out there that are trained really do know what they're seeing. But to say an untrained eye, do you feel like there has to be some sort of misidentification sometime? Meaning, if people didn't know, like I said before, hyenas aren't related to canines, then people would think it looks like a canine, though. So in actuality, they could be mistaken as to thinking they're seeing something canine based. So do you feel sometimes misidentification is definitely coming into play with some of these people that might be the ones that are sending in raccoon tracks to us thinking that they're Dogman tracks and such.
Yeah. I mean, look at a raccoon's print. When you take, even a juvenile Dogman, I'm not sure how big they are when they're born, but I'm almost positive they're not going to leave a track that as little as a raccoon. It's pretty common sense. A raccoon probably full grown can, if it's got a lot of trash and stuff around there, it's eating good, probably get about 30, 40 pounds. So that's still not a very large animal, and they're still going to have small tracks. So all these people that sending in those kind of tracks, I would have to say, just be careful and just Google it. That's the best thing I could say to them. Google a track and look and compare it to what you found.
Yes, very well stated. And it's not that I'm trying to throw shade potential in anyone that is misidentifying things. I'm just really trying to be a realist and understand that sometimes people, yes, we misidentify things. And I'll give you a great example. This one guy who likes to travel all around, and his friends and family really don't encourage him doing this because he likes to stay in national parks, isolated areas. And he happened to go to the Patterson and Gimlin area and just wanted to check it out. But he's all by himself, just doing his documentary. And he said he saw at least 12, maybe 15 bears, give or take, in that area as he was going towards the location. And he said just because his mind was already in the zone of this is Sasquatch country, Bigfoot country, and he said he's an experienced outdoorsman, or would like to think he is, that a few times he would see this shadow running through the forest beside him, and his mind would start to think, oh my goodness, that has to be Bigfoot, but then he'd realize it was the black bear. So that's just what I mean, maybe potentially sometimes of individuals just, we're misidentifying things unless we get a really good glimpse at it, because a lot of times they're fleeting sightings,
Well, and that brings up another interesting topic about the Bigfoot. The the Bigfoot can do what they call the spider crawl. They can get down on their arms and their legs, and they'll crawl like a spider does. And there, I will say, a good friend of mine that I was out with on Saturday, Tim Deals from Dirty South Squatching, he's experienced the Bigfoot doing that spider crawling, and it got down on all fours and it took off. And when he looked to, I think he looked towards what he heard a noise, and he looked back, and it was gone. He knows that it was a Bigfoot. He's been an avid outdoorsman all of his life. He's been experiencing them, and he knows that was a Bigfoot 100% because it was standing bipedally, about 8-9 foot tall, and it got down on all fours and it took off, and it was there and it was gone.
Oops. That's some nightmare fuel right there. Correct me if I'm wrong, because like I said, I dived obviously into the Dogman topic. I have heard that the spider crawl is associated with juveniles as they're out basically watching and protecting the area. Not like little ones, but teenagers basically are the more or less the watchers. And I had just heard the other day while I was working on some Dogman stuff, an individual talking about the spider crawl and how it's associated with juveniles. And I just wondered if you had heard anything about that.
I think all of them do it, from the juveniles to the adults. I think they all do it. For example, we found the area Saturday, where there was a ridge top, and there was a bunch of laurel trees along the top of that ridge, and they had cleared all these laurels and pushed them over to make an area. And up there, you couldn't see into that, but you could see the trail that you could hike on plain as day, but you could not see through those bushes. You could find a spot through them bushes and look down off of that ridge, and you could see that trail just fine. So these things, they're super, super smart and clever. They're far more superior to us than what we can imagine. And, they're very, very intelligent. If they don't want you getting into an area, they'll let you know it. I'm not sure if the Dogman throw rocks or not. I'm sure they can, and I'm sure they will, but I know that we had some rocks thrown at us Saturday.
Jeez, that's some straight up nightmare fuel right there. And actually, to throw a little bit of frosting on top of the cake right there, yeah, dogmen do the same thing. I have numerous reports of people potentially thinking they were dealing with Sasquatch or Bigfoot with a rock throwing and the snapping of the branches, but they reported it was what looked to be either groups of dogmen or one or two or an individual. So that behavior is definitely something that does occur with the dogman as well, which is even more terrifying for sure.
Well, I just got this a little bit ago, and I'm gonna have to send this to you. But we heard a vocalization on Saturday while we were hanging our trail cameras up, and it sounded like a sound like something was whispering or something. And a friend of mine was watching that video, and he said, "Look at this." He said there was something watching you guys, and I got to looking at it, and whatever this thing is, it's large and it's black, and I know it ain't a bear because we were in there laughing and carrying on, just letting them watch us without running them off. You know, they're the Bigfoot are curious, but in this photograph that I'm going to send you shortly, this is a large black figure with pointed ears, and well, it's got a gray looking muzzle, so I'm all too familiar with what it is. And this thing was 30-40 yards away from us, probably. I mean, it's huge. I mean, I don't think Dogman can get very, very large, but whatever how big this thing is, it's a monster, dude.
That is straight up nightmare fuel right there for sure. Especially considering, like you said, your already previous encounters and just what's unfolding right there. And you're right in the area that all this stuff occurs. I like to call it a werewolf square, meaning you got Wisconsin, Michigan, you got Ohio, parts of West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Kentucky. It's all right in there. And that is, I just got your message. That is some straight up, yeah, territorial aspects of, there's a ton of dogman activity, which is intriguing, but also terrifying all at once. And have you really ever had a chance to dive into any of the more infamous kind of dogman encounters down in that area? And how do you feel about that?
Well, a guy that I take a lot of my research after, Scott Carpenter, he has had several experiences with the Dogman. He actually has a video Fort Loudon Lake, uh, and he utilizes a back trail camera, and that's what I do too. And he panned to move, and when he moved, there's a creature in the bushes, and well, how he does his video breakdowns, he goes frame by frame, and it's brown, and you can see its nose, you can see its eye, and its nose was flaring in the video. But the strangest thing was this dog man had a little gray being sitting on its shoulder, like a little tiny being. I don't know what it was, but this little thing was sitting on the dog man's shoulder, and this dog man was watching it. I mean, you can see the nose flaring on this creature, and that's probably one of his better videos of a dog man. But he's actually got another video. There was a dog man that had jumped up into the tree, and he started filming it after it had already got up in the tree, but it wasn't moving from once it got up in the tree. It just sat motionlessly still.
Jeez, oh girl, just imagine that all unfolding right there.
You haven't seen that video, the one I'm talking about, where it's in the bushes and it's got that little being sitting on its shoulder. I have to send it to you, dude. It's freaking wild, man. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it's plain as day. You can see this creature's nose flaring. You know how like a dog's nose will start to like flare when it's sniffing?
Yes.
That's what that thing done, and it's clear as day in the video. And he sent it into the Proof is Out There on his History channel, and they said that he augmented that video.
Interesting.
Because he sent in the video where he had edited it and slowed it down for them. That way they didn't play the fast motion video. He slowed it down for them. That way they didn't have to do it. And they said he augmentated the video and that it was fake.
Wow. Yeah, I actually do tune into, not directly, because I put it on YouTube sometimes in the background while I'm working on stuff. Ironically, I'm trying to be a content creator on YouTube, and I just invest a ton of my viewing time on YouTube, which I just wish I could apply to my own channel. No, that's really super, super interesting, and definitely share me that stuff so I can check it out for sure. But that show has done some good debunking, I feel like, but also, again, they've come to conclusions on things that I've kind of disagreed with to a certain extent. So that is very compelling. Have you ever had a chance to meet Scott Carpenter yourself?
I did not. And if I could do anything, I wish I started researching sooner. That way I could have met that man because he is such a huge inspiration to me. You know, he passed away in August of 2023. And, you know, I started doing this December. So that's one of my biggest regrets was not starting this sooner. But I can't help but feel in a way that he's kind of guiding me in a way.
It's pretty cool right there. That's awesome. So sounds like he's pretty much what Jody Cook was to me, to you right there. So that's awesome stuff, right? Unfolding. So that's cool, man. I'm pretty sure he would be pretty happy with the contributions and the kind words that you just dropped. So that's pretty legendary right there. Anything else in Tennessee area that you feel that really sparked your interest into the Dogman topic, or what really got you churning?
Yeah, my experience back in January, that definitely got it going for one. And then my other experience that happened April 28th at Forks of the River Wildlife Management Area. My stepdaughter's dad and myself, we went turkey hunting, and we got out there about 4:30, 5 o'clock, and the sun was just starting to come up, and we got out of the vehicle and we started walking along, and we hit the owl call. We had two turkeys gobbling off in the distance, so we start to go towards them, and after the sun had come up, they shut up. And so we figured they had some hens out in the field and they were strutting. So we got out in these big fields trying to find them. We never could find them. And we're in the very back of this property along the river, and we decided to go back and leave. So there's this area on this property that had a shed that had all kinds of equipment there that they used to mow the fields and stuff. So we went in the woods behind that, and we're walking up this creek bed. Right as soon as we get into the woods, I had this feeling that we were being watched. And as we started walking a little bit, I noticed that we were being followed by something. And I wasn't going to say anything until he heard it. So we kept walking along, and all of a sudden, he said, "There's something following us." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "It's been following us for about 20 minutes." And we got up out of this creek bed, and we got to walking a little bit more, and he said, "There's something still following us." I said, "Yeah." He said, "What is it?" I said, "I'm not sure." I said, "It could be a Bigfoot." And he knows that I researched them and all this stuff. And I turned around and I started taking pictures. And I took this picture at 7:36 a.m. And when we got out of there, and he dropped me off at home, and I got to looking through the pictures, and sure enough, right there in that creek bed where we had just come out of, this creature standing there. And I mean, you can't really tell. All you can see is this huge head, and it looks like a giant pit bull, so to speak. And it was whatever was following us was bipedally. I'm almost positive that's what it was. And I mean, there's no denying. You can see its eye, you can see its nose, you can see its ear, and it's a very eerie looking creature. But they know that there's a lot going on here in East Tennessee, other than just Bigfoot. I mean, there's Dogman, there's other things going on. I mean, it's all here. The Appalachian Mountains is full of mystery, and quite frankly, it's the oldest mountain region in the world. So it's untelling what's rolling around in these mountains and these hollers. I mean, you never know. There could be dinosaurs walking around in them still.
Wow, that is all. As I'm just processing that and seeping it in, it's just super intriguing. I'm up in the Northeast, so I have no idea besides what I've seen in video footage sent to me or stuff that I've watched, really what the atmosphere or the terrain is like down in the Tennessee, Kentucky, LBL area. I do know Jody tells me that in Ohio, it's pretty much just a ton of flat land with some trees, but no mountains or anything. You got a couple hills, but more or less it's just flat. I've heard the term holler before. Could you kind of explain that to me in the audience a little bit? Because I guess I don't fully understand what that would look like as to an area.
So what a holler pretty much is there's two ridges and there's like a big valley that just shoots down in between them. Yeah, that's the best way that I can describe a holler. It's just there's two ridges and then there's like a valley that's right in the middle of them.
Okay. And they're just densely populated with trees in your area, I assume?
Oh yeah, in the national park, man, it's crazy. It's unbelievable. Well, I've I've got a picture I can send to you, and it'll explain itself. It holler is something you don't want to find yourself in. It's very very thick and unforgiving.
Wow. I can imagine what that would feel like to get stuck up in there for sure. Because, I mean, up here in Maine in the Northeast, we have a ton of dense forest and such, but I don't think we have, as what you said, a holler, but I could be incorrect. That seems to be something that I hear a lot of my friends down in the South using it as terminologies. Yet again, I didn't really understand it until you just kind of really explained it to me. So when it comes to some of the other interesting experiences down in the Tennessee area, what are your thoughts on the encounter that happened with Glenn, the gentleman that worked for Kentucky Fish and Game that passed away, unfortunately, from cancer? That he gave us his confession about how he saw a young couple attacked by what looks to be a massive hyena-like creature.
I am not all too familiar with that case. I may have to catch up on that because I've been looking at all these other Dogman incidents. I'm not familiar with that one. If you can, please send me that because I would love to read in on that. But there is an incident from Mountain City, Tennessee. There was a gentleman that went out hiking, and his name, I can't remember what his name was. He went by his military name on this show, but I can't remember. But he was hiking along, and he set up a camp, and he set up a fire, and the only thing he had was a knife. And right along the light of the fire, he could see this big rock. Well, he's sitting there, and all of a sudden he can hear something moving around like the edge of the light from the fire. And he's sitting there, and this thing starts rushing towards him. It's a Dogman like creature, and it keeps rushing towards him. And he pulls out his knife, and this thing looks at his knife, and then looks back at him, and it goes back out of the light of the fire, and it's staying in the darkness, and it keeps running around, and it goes up on this rock, and it would just sit there and watch him. Well, he didn't get any sleep this night, and as soon as it became daylight, he left. And he went back and he got some buddies, and they came back, and they set up in the same spot. And apparently there was two of them that showed up this night, and they kept coming into the fire, and they had guns and stuff this time, and they shot one of them a couple of times, and it went off, and then they shot the other one, and the creatures eventually left, and they tracked them down, and they tracked the blood all the way to a large cliff face, and they never did find anything out of that. So it was a very wild very wild encounter that happened to those gentlemen, because this thing had been killing cattle and everything else.
Jeez, crap. And then they actually went out and tried to track it right there. That's pretty scary all on its own, but that's also a very interesting encounter. And then you had spoken about when you were younger about an incident that had occurred to you and your family too, about some sort of attack on some of your livestock. Would you like to speak about that before we wrap this up?
Yeah. I'm not sure how old I was. I was somewhere in the range of 8 to 10, but we had 16 hogs that was about 250, 300 pounds. One night, the dogs just started going crazy, and the next morning, Dad went down to check on the hogs, and all 16 of them were, and they were all just torn apart brutally, and there was just a lot going on there. So we got to checking it out some more, and Dad never did find any tracks or anything, but he jokingly said, that was Bigfoot. Well, and we got to digging into it some more, and he just shut up about it. He never did bring it up about what it was that this hogs. And these things, the hogs weren't ate on; they were just. So now that I've been doing my research and stuff, I'm like, well, what if it was a juvenile Sasquatch that had got in there, and the pigs tried to get after it? Maybe a Bigfoot done it. But I was like, no, the way that these things were, I described them. I said, if the Bigfoot done it, they surely to goodness have just broke their necks and been done with them and not sliced them up like that. So that's when I was like, it could have been a Dogman. So it was a very interesting experience that happened when I was younger. Also, not to mention my aunt's Labrador Retriever went missing too. So I said Labrador, not Labrador. It's a Golden Retriever. She's a Golden Retriever. Her name was Harley. Yeah, she went missing that same night. So there was a lot going on.
Yeah, that sounds like you were saying it really could be a few different culprits or either or, but that's pretty disturbing right there because that seems to be a common trend. And I do try to explain that to people of that it's no different than you and I going to the grocery store. Any sort of animal is obviously going to stop by a farmstead and just snag something or somebody's pet if they could. It's much easier than chasing down a deer.
Yeah, but what I don't understand was why it killed all and didn't eat them. It very well could have been a Dogman pup got in there and Mama came in there and cleaned house. But I can't say for certain. It's just pure speculation and theory, But there's one thing for certain. I know that a bear didn't do it. And these hogs are 250, 300 pounds. And the gate to get into the hog pen, the fence all the way around it was 6 foot. So, I'm not saying a bear couldn't have done it, but just too much fishiness going on.
Yeah, no, for sure. And definitely, like you said, any sort of predator that was going to do that would have eaten what was presented to them. So that seems like maybe something disturbed it before it got a chance to finish what it was doing, or it was just absolutely ticked off at your family for being in its area and just wanted to prove a point, or maybe when it went in there to take one of the hogs, the rest of the hogs tried to save the other hog and just really ticked it off, and it went on a feeding frenzy. Who knows? There's so many variables
of what it could have been.
Exactly, but either way, we do know that the bottom line is something or some things disposed of some livestock and didn't really clean up the matter, so that makes it more nightmare fuel than if it was to have just taken it. Because imagine the sight when your dad saw that must have been something that he wishes he probably didn't have to witness.
Yeah, and it didn't take him long to really just stop talking about it. He jokingly said it was a Bigfoot that done it. And that's whenever I was little, that was really like the first time I ever remember hearing about it. And then there was literally like the next week after that was when those hunters or whoever it was supposedly killed one in Georgia, and they had it in the freezer. I'm not sure if you remember that incident or not.
I have actually never heard that. If you'd like to delve into that real quick before we let you get back to what you need to be doing, that'd be cool.
Yeah, so apparently I can't remember what year it was, but I know it was shortly after those hogs got on my dad's property. But there was, I'm almost positive it was in Georgia. There was a couple of hunters that came out and they said they had killed Bigfoot, and they had it in a chest, a big ice chest, and that they had the body there and everything, and it just turned out to be a big hoax. But that I can send that to Kenny, and I'll let him look at that. But I mean, if you're all not familiar with that, you can reach out to me. I'm in Kenny's Facebook group, the North American Dogman Project, and you can also find me at Bigfoot Reports and Data. I'm possibly going to be going under name change. I'm not sure. I kind of want to keep it the way I am because I've got the name out there. You know, I've got over 4,000 members on my Facebook group, so I kind of don't want to change it up because everybody knows how to find me.
Yes, well, I will say before again that take it from somebody that had to do it. If you are going to do that, you really should do it as soon as possible. And honestly, just changing your name, you're not going to lose much. See, I had to redo a ton of things, but yeah, I mean, it's really not the end of the world. I mean, we can fix your logo in 2 seconds, but that's definitely something that it's not really a bad thing, but it is also something that if you do it, you probably want to make sure that your next one you roll with is the one you're going to stick with for sure. So, all right, my friend. Well, thanks again for stopping by and spending time with us tonight here in the Fox Den. I do totally appreciate you, man, and I look forward to talking to you next week. But I'll obviously talk to you before then via text. But you make sure to stay safe out there and keep me updated on everything, man.
You know me, brother. I always keep you up to date.
Thank you again for everyone who stopped in tonight to hang out with myself and Harley Owens in the Fox Den for this episode of Midnight Lycanthropy on Star Fox Radio. Please like, subscribe, comment, and feed the algorithm. And remember, there are so many things in the forest you have no clue exist.